Sisonke. Simunye. Sisonkeye. Simunyeye. Okay, it seems like we got everyone back inside. The guys online, they are back, right? Okay. So, firstly for the guys online, this is not on script, guys, but I'm improvising here. The only reason why is we want to do a pair debrief with you guys now. But we're just trying to accommodate the online guys as well. So for the online guys, we would like you guys to just reflect on how those videos, or the videos that you guys watched online, how was it like? What did it make you think? And what is your key takeaway from those videos? And just get active in the chat box. Just share your responses to those 3 questions. How was it like? What did you think of watching those videos? And what your key takeaways are. Now for you guys in the room, we would like to do a pair debrief with you guys. So the person next to you, we're assuming everyone here was part of our practical activity outside. We would like you guys to just grab the person next to you and reflect on the following points. We're going to give you guys a few minutes to reflect on the following. The first point we're asking you to reflect on is, think about your breathing and your heart rate, which means discuss with the person next to you. Share with them, when was your breathing and heart rate fast? When was it slow? When did it feel easier to breathe? And when did it feel harder to breathe? That's the first point you're going to discuss with the person next to you. Now the second point, guys, you guys will be reflecting on your thoughts and your emotions. And what I mean by that is, discuss with the person next to you. What were you thinking when you were sprinting? When Jose asked you to think of him chasing you. So, what were you thinking about when you were sprinting? Don't say you were thinking of Jose chasing me. What were you actually thinking? Also, how did it feel when you knew you had a 15-second break coming up? Because you know when that break comes up and you know a break is coming up, it makes you feel a certain type of way, right? So how did it feel when you knew the 15-second break was coming up? And the last point we would like you to discuss with the person next to you is, what do you think would happen if you were always sprinting or always only standing still like this? What do you think could happen? Is that clear? Okay, so we're giving you guys a few minutes just to grab the person next to you and let's reflect on the following points.
Okay, Sisonke. Simunye. Sisonke. Okay, I'm not as good as Jose, but that was quite a lot of flavor. Well done. Okay, guys, sorry, I know I'm cutting it a little bit short. We only have limited time, so normally we would take quite a lot of feedback from. We're pretending that you guys are our coaches today, and there's a reason that we run this session with our coaches. It's obviously an important topic for us, and we're going to talk a little bit more about why in a second. So just for those of you that don't know Waves for Change, this is a photograph of some of our coaches actually going through some training, but this is what an average session looks like at Waves for Change. We call our service a SEF therapy service, and I'm going to explain a bit more about it to you today. First of all, I just want you to close your eyes for a moment whilst we debrief on the session that we just did. And I want you to imagine that you're riding the most terrifying roller coaster that you've ever been on. And it has some really terrifying parts where you're going down so fast. And then it has some parts where it's kind of leveled out and it's a bit calmer. And I want you to imagine that you're trying to read quite a complicated book, a new textbook that your teacher just gave you, whilst you're riding on this roller coaster. Okay, now you can open your eyes. But the reason I did that for you is I actually want to credit an amazing organization called Community Keepers. Those of you, I'm not sure if anyone from there is in the room, but if not, I'd really recommend looking them up. They're an incredible organization in South Africa, and they've really helped shape our learning and understanding about this topic of toxic stress as well. And I think this is a really good way of trying to just imagine how life feels for a lot of the kids that we work with at Waste for Change. When we started the organization, it's about 12 years old now, the organization actually evolved out of a PhD. And what that PhD was looking at, it was working with children from multiple different communities, the most underserved communities in Cape Town. And we were trying to understand, how do children develop a sense of self-concept? We learned through that just how much adversity children we were working with were facing. And they shared with us they were experiencing between 6 and 8 adverse events every single year on average. This means witnessing shooting, stabbing, stepping over dead bodies on your way to school, the kind of adversity that is extreme. And it's actually consistent with living in a war zone. So South Africa is not in a state of war, but if you live in some of the communities that we have in our country, that is your reality. And what we started to learn from recently, unfortunately, this research was done a decade ago, but things like the child gauge that were published last year in South Africa showed us that, unfortunately, I don't mean to be too depressing, but the situation for children really hasn't improved. I know I'm standing in front of a lot of experts here, so I'm not a neuroscientist, but I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about the stress response system. And the reason that we do this session with our coaches is we can pathologize mental health a lot. But in South Africa, a lot of the determinants about your mental health, if you're a child growing up in one of these communities, it is actually social. And your stress response system is hugely shaped by your environment. And learning to cope with adversity is a very normal and healthy part of child development. So we want children to learn how to respond to adversity in their environment. Everyone has to cope with stress. But as Jose just demonstrated to you outside, if you're doing that repeatedly, all the time, if you're constantly perceiving threat in your environment, it changes this very important part of your brain and how you're responding within your nervous system. So repeated, long-lasting stress, adversity, trauma of the kind that I just mentioned to you, with no protective relationships to buffer that, has an enormous impact on your physiology. So we know that when children arrive at our service, they're actually extremely dysregulated. And I'm going to just explain to you, because not everyone in the audience maybe is particularly familiar with this system. So I just want to explain to you a little bit about what the stress response system does. So when children arrive, we know that they're in this state of fight, flight, or freeze. And I'm going to describe to you a little bit about how that happens. So we've got something called our autonomic nervous system, and that really controls all of these automatic things that happen in our body. So things like our breathing, our heart rate. And there's 2 parts to that. We've got the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And how I want you to think about it, for those of you that aren't experts, is that one of those is our accelerator and one of those is our brake. And you guys were testing this outside a lot just now. You were sprinting, accelerating, sympathetic. Parasympathetics when we put on the brakes. Okay. And we need to be able to move between these 2 channels in a healthy rhythm. If I was nervous to come up today and give this presentation to you, it's important that I've got a bit of a dry mouth, my heart's pumping a bit, I'm breathing a bit faster because it's going to make me perform. It is a bit of a threat, it's stressful, but it's healthy. And it's the same when kids are going through exams, or we want them to know that they need to sprint and panic if a car is coming towards them. But we need to be able to move between these 2 in a healthy rhythm. So if you get stuck in either of these channels, and that's one of the questions we just asked you to think about, actually neither of those states is particularly healthy. And for children and young people who are exposed to this much trauma and adversity on a daily basis, it means that their stress response system starts to get confused. It might mean that they perceive threat all the time, even if it's not there. Someone bumps into them in a queue at Checkers or at Woolworths, one of the shops here, and they perceive a huge threat, and they respond in a way that that thing is really threatening in their environment, and actually it's not. Or it might mean that children get very stuck in this other channel where there's gunshots around them and they don't run away. And it's really, really important when we were asked to talk today about mental health and give everyone in this space an insight into what are the biggest issues affecting children and young people in South Africa. At Ways for Change, we perceive mental health through a lens of toxic stress. And we encourage everyone here to understand this has a huge implication for the mental health needs of children that we work with. When children first arrive at Ways for Change, we use some tools, including heart rate variability. And what this allows us to measure is how is their stress response system looking at the moment? How healthy is it? And if anyone's interested, I can talk to you a little bit more about how we measure this. In simple terms, if you've got a higher HRV, it's usually healthier. So we can look at changes over time in children. But we know from our service that it takes at least 8 to 10 weeks for children arriving in our service for their nervous systems to settle, for them to trust the space, for them to start regulating better. And that has big implications for the length and types of services that we offer. So just to summarize, we keep talking about this thing, toxic stress. What I want us to remember that is what we're discussing today is prolonged activation of stress and the absence of protective relationships. These are two key factors. If you are in an environment with loads of stress and adversity, we do not advocate that your life is over. That doesn't mean that children can't have positive, independent futures, but we need to understand the protective factors that are essential for them in order to support them to build positive mental health in the future. Let me just see if there was anything else I wanted to say here. And I think this potentially does differentiate some of the needs of children and young people in low and middle income countries. I am not for a second saying that isolation, depression, anxiety, issues with social media, eating disorders, of course they are still relevant for children in our context, but there's this additional layer of toxic stress, of the amount of adversity, of growing up in what feels like a war zone. That means we've got to respond to these unique needs, and we've got to look at mental health needs of children here in a slightly different way. Okay, so for those of you that are not from South Africa, I'm sure a lot of people in the room, everyone's old enough to have watched the World Cup. So in 2010, when there was the big opening, this is a huge stadium, it's one of the biggest in the world, in Soweto. I want you to imagine, you can close your eyes again if you want, I want you to imagine this stadium full of people and one person standing outside, okay? Now this is me representing to you how many psychologists there are for it's actually 100,000 people in the country. And if you've got one person standing outside and that stadium's full 3 times, that's how many psychiatrists are serving 300,000 people. So 1 to every 300,000 for psychiatrists, 1 to every 100,000 for psychologists. And actually, these statistics are based on the Western Cape, where we are now. Now, that is the best resource province in this country, and South Africa is one of the best resource African countries for highly skilled mental health professionals. The reason I'm showing this to you is, first of all, I want to make it very clear, we respect and acknowledge the huge need for the role of these incredible, highly skilled professionals. One of the things we've got to do in South Africa is find ways of retaining more of them in the public health system. 80% of these highly skilled professionals work in the private sector. But the result of this is that 90% of children who have a diagnosable mental health condition in the country do not access services. And we've got to start looking at other solutions, because if we've got the number of kids living in multidimensional poverty, experiencing this amount of stress and adversity every day, their risk, their likelihood of needing a mental health service is so high, and we cannot continue to respond only in this way to the problem. Just to mention, we do have really strong partnerships with highly skilled professionals at Ways for Change. All of our sites are supervised by one mental health professional, but that means that they're supervising groups of coaches that are then reaching hundreds of children. It's not them trying to reach hundreds of children by doing one-on-one therapies. Arguably, our service also responds in a very appropriate way culturally. Can you imagine having 43 Josés in one room? Like that's our job, to deal with that level of energy. But imagine the energy that comes from that, and imagine the number of children and the amazing difference that they can make if they are supervised appropriately, and if their role is recognized as part of the mental health workforce. That is what we're here today to advocate for. Okay. So just a few more minutes, and then we're going to get on to another activity. But I mentioned to you that Ways for Change came from a PhD. One of the biggest things we learned from that is we understood children's lives better, but we also used that opportunity, and we continue to have a very strong research focus to what we do. Our intervention was co-designed between mental health experts and children and young people themselves. And they made it very clear to us children that they needed 5 things from us to try and help improve their mental health. The first one was these buffering relationships. Our first pillar there arguably creates all of our other pillars. And one of them, well, a former coach, now incredible leader in our training team, José, really embodies that. If you have caring coaches that can create supportive relationships around you, then you're able to create a physically and emotionally safe space. You can facilitate an activity like surfing in a way that is mastery. And what I mean by that is you are not praising performance, you're praising progress. You're allowing everybody in the space to feel like they belong there and that they can build confidence in the space. Children also told us that they didn't necessarily want access to more one-on-one services. They talked to us a lot about the need for community healing, for a sense of belonging, to be able to deal with stuff together. And they didn't want to have kind of 4 to 6 week courses where they could just go and try and resolve their problems one-on-one. They wanted to have tools that they could use to manage the repeated adversity that ultimately we know we're sending our kids back into. So they wanted to have these tools that they could use for themselves. And they told us that they wanted these coaches to be able to refer them to other opportunities and services because there's an undeniable link between their mental health and things like their sexual reproductive health. And they didn't have a lot of caring adults that they could talk to about that. The one thing I want to mention here is our services are quite long. Children don't come to us for a short time. And the reason we say that is we've discussed this a lot with experts. If you have 10 to 15 years worth of repeat trauma and adversity sitting in your body and mind, we believe it's going to take quite a while for us to address that, for us to reprogram this stress response system to help you feel safe and settled, to help you set goals and be able to sustain that behavior over time. The other thing I just want to mention is our methodology is not underpinned by only a curriculum. The key part of this is the social domain. It's the space that people like José create. Okay, final bit. Why surfing? I actually added this last night because so many people asked me this yesterday. We know that with surfing, not all sport necessarily is naturally going to have a mental health benefit. It's about how that sport is used. And one of the things that we talk to lots of experts about is if you use sport in the right way, it actually does a huge amount of work for you. Whilst you're surfing and teaching your friend to surf, you're learning to share, you're developing empathy, you're helping to regulate emotions, you're practicing these behaviors with each other in the water. None of our service is done in a classroom, it's all done on the beach. Surfing in particular induces flow states. There are particular sports and physical activities that are really effective. And if anyone in here has ever tried surfing, some of you guys came to visit us a few days ago. You are not focusing on anything other than trying to stand up on that board. And what that allows when you're so immersed in this activity is respite from all these difficult thoughts and feelings. So again, it's about understanding if we use activities like this, you do not have to have highly skilled professionals to facilitate the space, because the activity itself, the games, the activities that you're doing within that sporting context do a lot of the work for you. And if we can depathologize a lot of how we see mental health and understand that social determinants are driving a lot of these negative outcomes, there can be social solutions to them using sport and physical activity led by people like Jose. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Ash. She's just going to give you a little bit of background to 1 or 2 more games and activities you're going to try with us before we close today. Thank you so much, Ash. This one? That just shows our reach, but it's fine, the next one.
Okay. There we go. Okay, thank you so much, Paula and Jose and Kelly. So I just wanted to briefly expand a little bit more on how we're supporting these healthy stress responses in our participants. One of the ways, which P started to expand on a little bit, is access to our caring coaches, who are these protective factors for our participants. And another way is through group physical activity, which increases health and reduces stress through things like a sense of belonging and social connections, improving esteem, self-esteem and confidence, providing opportunities for respite. So Paula mentioned spaces away from those adverse environments which are really impacting our children's internal worlds. And opportunities for learning, which align with this kind of really amazing window of opportunity that we have in children and youth's brain development, and that's supported through the caring coaches. So our coaches provide this co-regulation role through modeling the behaviors and the practices, the coping skills that we want our participants to embrace, and through creating those safe spaces where they can master those self-regulation skills themselves. So really the kind of key driver of our program is these coaches. One of the ways that we support our coaches to have that impact is through the 4th pillar, which is our curriculum of games and activities that provide participants with the opportunity to practice behaviors that build strong connections and strong minds and a strong sense of future, which are all really essential to their ability to self-regulate, to their development, and to their well-being. What's really important about these behaviors that they practice, yes, they happen at the beach in this fun and supportive environment, but they're impacting the internal world of our participants, which means that it's transferable. These are things that they can take home, take back to their communities, their school environment, and really use beyond the beach. Our 4th pillar, we think about it as a coach support tool. So the curriculum, like P mentioned, our program isn't reliant on the curriculum, but it's a way to really enable our coaches. It's trauma supportive. It can be integrated into a variety of cultural and geographic and sport contexts. So we use it at the beach with surfing. We have been very, very excited to share it with a range of partners, including a couple who are in the room today, Pedal Project and Little Lions. And we have partners who've used this curriculum in gardening programs, yoga programs, basketball, all sorts of different contexts. What's also really important about this curriculum that we're really proud of is that it is participant and coach-led. So we're always keeping the needs and the capacities of our coaches and our participants in mind. Oh, sorry.
It's just
Thank
for
you.
the online people.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. And what we're going to do now is Jose is going to lead us through one of the activities that helps to build strong minds.
Mr. Mike, there we go, man. Sisonke. Simunye. Okay, so thank you, Ish, for covering that and for also touching on something very important that we're going to do now. Firstly, we are going to start with something called an energizer. And this is actually the main part, or one of our main parts at Ways for Change that helps build strong connections amongst our participants and amongst our coaches. So I would like everyone to stand up. Okay. So for this energizer, guys, we would like everyone to stand on the outside skirt of these chairs. So on the outside. No one must be in the middle. There we go. Yes, make a circle on the outside of the chairs. You guys can come here as well. There we go. Okay. Find a place, There's more space here. There we go. Okay, Sisonke. Simunye. Okay, so this energizer, guys, it's called Kaputia. So on the count of 3, I want you guys to say Kaputia. On the count of 3, guys. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you see, earlier on I told you guys, you have to say it with flavor. So look at me. Kaputia. Again? Okay, so how we going to do Kaputia, ne? Is everyone must first face this way. Face this way. There we go. Okay. Now the second instruction that I would like to share is when I shout out Kaputia, I want you guys to say, yeah, yeah. Can you do that? But with flavor and with rhythm. Let's try it out. Yeah, yeah. Say it. Yeah, yeah. Again. Yeah, yeah. Again. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now when I say turn over, I want you to jump and do this. Yes. Nah? Can you do that? Okay. But you need to jump with flavor, nah? Yes. Nah? Okay. It's going to go faster and faster and faster. So in Xhosa we also say jikela, nah? So when you hear me say jikela or turn over, you say yes, and you turn around. All good? Okay. Here we go. Let's try it. Kaputia. 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 Now we're going to move around now. You're not going to march on one place, ne? You are going to move around. So here we go. Kaputia. 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 Let's go. Let's walk. Kaputia. A little bit faster. Kaputia. 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 Okay, so guys, we need to move, ne? We need to move faster. You know, a tortoise is like slow, ne? Let's be something else, a little bit faster. Kaputia. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, nah. Let's do it. Let's do a little bit faster. Okay, here we go. Kaputia. 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 Turn over. Okay, here we go. This side around. Kaputia. 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 Chikela. Kaputia. 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 Clap your hands. Yes, yes, yeah. Kaputia. Walk. Kaputia. Chikela. Turn over. You must listen. It's going faster and faster now. Kaputia. 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 Turn over. Turn over. Turn over. Turn over. Kaputia. Turn over. Kaputia. 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 Turn over. Chikela. 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 Turn over. Yes. Let's take a seat. Sisonke. Simunye. Sisonkeye. Simunyeye. Okay. So what you guys just experienced now is something called an energizer. And we usually do this in the beginning of each session. What this energizer does is it helps the participants and everyone part of it build strong connections. It also breaks the ice. And it gets us hyped and, gets the heart pumping, the sweat and all that. Then the breathing as well. But what we're going to do now is another tool, a very important tool, that we also provide our participants with. And it's called the power hand. And the power hand it's a stress-based approach. I mean, not stress, strength. It's a strength-based approach where in the power hand, we ask participants to identify some of their strengths. And this is a tool that the participants and our coaches use for self-regulation, to calm down the body, to calm down the mind, because through doing that, we are able to think more clear and make positive life choices. So I want everyone to sit in a comfortable position because we would like you guys to experience the power hand. So let's sit in a comfortable position. You can have both your feet down on the floor. If it's going to make you ground yourself more. For this activity, you can have your eyes open or you can have your eyes closed, whatever you are comfortable with. I want you, before we kick off, the guys online, please feel free to join in on this activity. I want you to take a quick look. This activity, as you guys can see on the slide, kids are demonstrating their power hands, right? So I want you all just to put out your hand as if you're about to high-five someone. And with your other hand, I want you to use your index finger. So with this high five, I want us all to picture this high five being 5 mountains in Cape Town. Because we are the place of mountains, nah? So on this hand, there are 5 mountains. And this index finger, this is you. And you are going to hike all 5 mountains. And when you reach the top of each mountain, you will identify a strength that you have that makes you special, different, and unique. And you're going to pinch it, you're going to leave it at the top of that mountain. and then you're going to move on to the next mountain. With every breath you take, I want you guys to use your index finger to walk up, because you're taking a deep breath in and you walk up your mountain. Whilst walking, you think of a strength. When you reach the top, you pinch that strength into your thumb, the tip of your thumb. In reality, your mountain. Yes, the other way around, but yes, you get what I'm saying. So these are your mountains, index fingers you, and with your eyes closed or your eyes open, I'm just going to guide you guys through a power hand activity. Okay, so let's focus on our breathing. Let's take a deep breath in and out. Another one in and out. I want you to continue breathing at your own pace, at your own time. I want us all to stretch out our 5 mountains in front of us. With the other hand, let's get ourselves ready to walk each of these 5 mountains. I want you to put yourself at the bottom of your first mountain, the bottom of your thumb. And I want us all to take a deep breath in and start walking up that first mountain. When you reach the top, I want you to pinch in a strength that makes you special, different, and unique. And I want you to breathe out and walk down on the inside of your thumb on your way to your second mountain. Let's take a deep breath in and let's walk up our second mountain. Think of another strength. We reach the top of the second mountain and we squeeze in another strength. Let's breathe out as we walk down the second mountain. And let's take another deep breath in. Up our way, Table Mountain. We reach the top. We pinch in another strength. And down Table Mountain we go. On our way to our 4th mountain, Lion's Head. We're at the top. We put our strength down and we walk down our 4th mountain. Goodbye, Lion's Head. On our way up on our last mountain, it's a very small one, so pinch in another strength, and when you are ready, make your way down your last mountain. I want you to continue breathing at your own pace, at your own time. I want us to listen to my voice, in my voice only, except for the interpreter over here. I took you on a journey, and it didn't take long. On this journey, we all spent some time identifying some of the strengths that we have that makes us special, makes us different, it makes us unique. For those that have their eyes closed, when you open them, I want you to tell yourself that from today onwards, I will use my strengths to make me the best person or the best version of me that I can be when I step out into the outside world. I want you to slowly count to 3. When you reach 3, we can come back to this safe space. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Jose. I'm a little bit conscious of time. Do you need a clap, maybe? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so normally I'm looking at Emma and the United team. They're probably freaking out for time. So I know there's a few announcements to make. Usually with children, Jose did do some of the debrief with you, but there are a few more elements to this that we can share with anyone that's interested. I think we're going to leave the session there and hand back over to the United team. Just a couple of thoughts for you to go home with. Thank you so much for participating. We had so much fun today. I hope it gave you an insight into our service. We really want people to leave here feeling like sports like surfing and coaches like Jose have a very important role to play. We want more Joses, we want more sports programs, we want more access to safe spaces for children in their communities that are fun and that deliver services to them in a way that suits their language, their culture, their environment. And yeah, we hope if anyone's got any questions, you can come and chat to us. Ash and Kelly did mention that the way we are scaling at Ways for Change is not to create loads more sites. We don't want to become a Nando's. We are sharing our work with other organizations that are using sport and physical activity. Come and chat to us if you're interested, and thank you so much for your time. Emma.
Thank you very much, Waves for Change. Let's give them a round of applause again, because once is not enough. So we're going out for a break, but before that, let's make some announcements. So we'll have a 30-minute networking opportunity over coffee or tea, so take that chance. For our virtual participants, we'll be back in 30 minutes, and you'll be joining the Youth at the Forefront of Mental Health Programs and Advocacy session happening in this room for in-person participants. The other sessions would be launching a new environment and mental health working group upstairs at the Freesia. And beside that would be the mental health finance. It's a time to start thinking differently at the Daisy Room. Please also note that we always have our quiet space available at the Nerina space, and also for those who wish to pray again, you can take the lift past the comfort rooms, the 2 lifts, which will bring you at the R level. Who here is interested on digital mental health? Good, because we have a bonus session for you available later at 12:45 p.m. in the same room. So we'll have a bonus session called Digital Mental Health, Exchanging Information and Best Practices. This will be led by my colleague, Sarah. So look for her later in this room. Happy to chit-chat more with other national partners on that. And last reminder, for those of you who have your badge, please make sure that you check in at the counter, because they're making sure that you're here, and also for everyone's safety. And finally, making sure that we're all attended in today's gathering. I think that's just it. Enjoy tea, coffee, and see you in 30 minutes.